The purpose of Techless is to create healthy technology. And so to create healthy tech, you have to define what is healthy tech. And I'll say that I've been working on it for 5 years, and I'm still not confident in my definition. Even if you get a kid the fake phone, they don't want that phone. They want the real thing. And that's there's something interesting about that psychology. And we're like trying to find the line between the two as an actual tool for teams. It was wonderful. Our experience, you hear horror stories. We had our fair share of challenges, but honestly, all in all, it was extremely fulfilling. And it feels a bit entrepreneurial, right? Like you're just like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're a bit naive. It is messy, and so be it. You just take each day as it is and depend on others for help and just dive in. And what that means is we do more humble marketing and launches. Like, for example, you said you've launched in the Tate. When we went there, we got tables and chairs, no screens, no audio visual, nothing, because you know how expensive it is to put all that stuff up. I'll throw in one tension to that, is that so much of our tech feeds our own selfishness and our own ego and what we want to do. If that becomes the focus, then it can be distracting. There are some things that we have to do that AI can't do or shouldn't do. Parenting, teaching. You guys are super intentional and have asked great questions. So I don't have any real agenda here. Y'all really hit the nail on the head on it, I think, in giving hopefully a hope-filled message of the reality of doing something like what we've done. Hopefully we've given y'all a peek under the hood.
Welcome to another episode of the Leading Boldly podcast. I'm Matt Clutterham.
And I'm Jenny Jarvis.
Today we have the absolute privilege of speaking with Chris Kaspar, a visionary entrepreneur dedicated to reshaping our relationship with technology. As the founder of Techless, Chris has pioneered the creation of WisePhone, a minimalist smartphone designed to prioritize human connection over digital distraction. Chris's journey in the tech industry is deeply personal. Inspired by his own experiences as a father and foster parent, he recognized the need for a device that empowers families to navigate the digital age mindfully. Chris has a rich history in design and brand development. He co-founded Dancing Fox Films and led Espresso, an award-winning ad agency, where he developed skills in storytelling and creative direction. His work has received national recognition in the US, including features during ESPN's Super Bowl coverage. At Techless, Chris is on a mission to reclaim life hours lost to screen time, advocating for a world where technology serves to enhance, not hinder, our relationships and well-being. Let's dive into Chris's journey, the inspiration behind WisePhone, and his vision for a healthier digital future. Chris, welcome to the Leading Boldly podcast.
Matt, Jenny, so glad to have this conversation. Your audience is near and dear to my heart because this is me. Entrepreneurs, small business owners. I'm very excited about today's conversation.
So we always start off finding out about the young Chris. What were you like as a child growing up? How was school for you? And what brought you into your kind of entrepreneurial journey?
I had an interesting childhood. I grew up in a small, tiny town in Texas, 2,000 people. So everybody knew everyone. And we actually have a fifth generation family business. So we ended up employing many of the people in the town, which is a very interesting dynamic when your friends' parents are employed by your parents. And so I was friends with everybody, on friendly terms with everybody, but definitely a unique upbringing there. And I got to be involved in the family business. And so I think that helped inspire some of the world that I'm creating now, that upbringing.
How did you find school? What was the school system like for you?
So I went to public school. It was small. I had 39 kids in my graduating class. And I honestly didn't have to try. I graduated like top of my class and never did homework. So I was blessed. But college hit me between the eyes. I actually had to work really hard in university. But it was great in a small town because you knew everyone. So there was relational dynamic to that, and you could be involved in everything. So I was legitimately involved in academics and athletics and theater, and just the whole gamut, which is a very wonderful, well-rounded experience to grow up.
Mm.
What did you do at university? And was that in Texas? You're currently in Texas.
Yes. So I didn't really have a choice. I did have a choice, but my whole family, we all went to Texas A&M. It's an agricultural mechanical school there. And my uncles, my grandfather, even if you go back at the university, like the very first ring in this display of Texas Aggie rings was like my great great grandfather's ring there. So I went to Texas A&M, studied business there. I got really involved in student government there and had meetings. I was super busy. Six nights out of the week, I had meetings. If you wanted to have lunch, it'd be like, oh, let's book 2 months out. It was crazy. But I ended up starting an organization there for artists. There were a lot of very highly creative people, but they were all on an island and kind of brought us together. And that organization still is operating today, and very cool community there.
Wow. So it sounds like you've started lots of businesses along the way. Are they all businesses that are still running and you've gone on to do the next thing? Or like, what does that journey look like?
Yeah, honestly, no, not anything grand. It was some small pieces here and there. I had my own photography company, and then I did wedding photos and film, and then and then that grew to be bigger. I traveled around the world actually doing some filmmaking, and then I had the opportunity to work at the family business where I was doing marketing and advertising. I ended up launching an ad agency, taking on outside clients. But nothing I've done has transcended or like gotten to the exit stage, if that makes sense, where it's been handed off to someone else. There's still remnants of everything I've done. Like the ad agency still exists in a small form, but more of an internal team for the larger family business. And so nothing grand here.
I am going to let Matt speak at some point. This sometimes happens on the podcast where I ask all the questions to start with, and they're, yeah, you're allowed to speak now, Matt.
Yeah, I'm just engrossed at the moment. I'm really enjoying finding out about you and.
For the entrepreneurs out there who have had all these business progressions and they kind of go, oh, like we spoke to one of our clients the other day and they said, I've been in business for 12 years, but I feel like I've had 12 businesses for 1 year at a time. What has been your learning across having all those different things? I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just the way of the entrepreneur often is that you have all these things. So what has been your learning from all of those things?
Oh man, I've worn so many hats as time has gone. I'll just say, here's how I've tried to transition. I've tried to transition from the business depending on and needing my time to depending and needing my expertise. And there's a big difference between the two. Like before I was billing hourly and now I'm, for an ad agency type job. And now I provide that same type of insight, but it's not directly correlated to revenue. I've also thought about, honestly, you asked the question already, what type of company are you building? There's companies that provide a living for you, which is great and wonderful. And I've done that until now. And then there's like legitimately growth focused companies with intent to exit or intent to do something even bigger and beyond yourself. And it's not just for you. In fact, you could get kicked off by the board and the company vision still moves on. And this is my first attempt at that. And it's been 6 years in that new journey. So but I kind of look at them philosophically very differently.
So it seems like it's certainly right from back at school and progressing through college, and then into businesses, a lot of focus around creativity, a lot of focus around a sort of photography edge. So how have you throughout that balanced creativity and tech? Because they can sometimes be at loggerheads.
Sure. And actually, what I didn't tell you, I got a master's in art too in the midst of all that. So the thread that connects these two together. The reason I got a master's in art, even though I had a business degree, was if you look at culture, the artist actually, if you want to see the future, just look at what artists are doing. Like they're 20 years ahead of their time, and artists define the things that writers and the media do. And then the writers and media define the things that musicians, and it trickles down and becoming actually the tip of the spear that influences culture at large. So the thread that binds these together is I've always deeply cared about culture at large. I've wanted to influence that. I've wanted to have a seat at the table there. And so art, photography, film, a lot of the films I did were very kind of in that vein. And so technology is just a step in that process. And we are in everybody's pocket. Like you're the thing you interface with everyone. And so if you can make philosophical changes at the technology platform level, you're now influencing culture at large. And we've started to see the influence we've had. And so that's how you connect the dots between those two.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a great thought process
Yeah.
because one of the things we're struggling with, particularly here in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but creativity in schools is just being removed at every turn. No music. Like we've got 46% of schools that do music. That's madness. So it's really interesting that you find that the creativity is actually the future thinking, future focused people, and everyone else is going to come up behind that. And I really love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to be alarmist at all, but that type of thinking is actually the only thing that's going to exist in the AI world, because now the technical skills, I mean, coding, writing music, I mean, I'm legitimately typing prompts to make my own compositions and music and such. Like it's actually the imagination is going to be the most valuable piece of the future economy post AI world.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. It's I think there's two ends. I think we're going to need humans for the creative input, and we're going to need some humans for the grunt physical labor at the other end. And I think the middle is all going to AI.
Yeah, all the tacticals,
Yeah, absolutely. So in that world and in the world that we're building, um, and in a world where our connection is constantly moving more and more digital, how do we define healthy technology?
that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
That I mean, in a sense, that is so. My company is called Techless, and I have two consumer-facing brands, WisePhone and Sage. The purpose of Techless is to create healthy technology. And so to create healthy tech, you have to define what is healthy tech. And I'll say that I've been working on it for 5 years, and I'm still not confident in my definition. And the reason why is that this is a very complex and it's a conversation that is in its infancy about what's good for us and what's not. And I have some very clear principles that drive me and our design philosophy that are very different than anything out there. And so we can dive into those principles if you want, but this is legitimately like there's the hyper-connected world that's anxious and depressed and it's what everyone's used to. And then there's Amish and I'm checked out and I live on a farm and there actually is a different path, but it's parsing out good and bad in ways that people aren't kind of thinking right now. So that's my life's purpose right there, is defining and creating healthy technology.
So where are you with that definition after 5 years?
Yeah. So I started out building it and just to experience it, right? Like, what is it? What's good or bad? And I had some, penciled in principles and such. I am co-writing a book with one of the leading psychologists in the States. And so she knocks all the rough edges off of my crazy, bold entrepreneurial thinking and makes it more humble and attainable for people. So we are like in kind of final draft form of the book, which is really good. And once we get that out, I have also a documentary we're working on that doomscroll.com is where that's at. And this is also trying to put in film form that very definition because it takes about an hour to explain in its full experiential form. And hopefully I can simplify it down to very few principles that people can visually get. And this is like a new gift to the world. Just like Whole Foods pioneered the word organic and fair trade and very simple principles that, okay, I get it. I can buy into that. That's what we're working on right now. So 80%, 70% of the way through here. So
I want to get on to the whole phone system, why you built it. But one of our most recent podcast episodes was with a guy for Status Social, where his solution to this is to go and educate people on the impact of social media. And so parents will have a better grasp of what's helpful, what's not helpful, how to protect their kids and all of that kind of stuff. And you've basically got a very similar mission with a different solution. And so what made you come up with the phone as the solution?
sure. And I watched the episode. It was a great conversation, by the way. He's smart and very much so value aligned. And I get energized by people side by side in the same vein. doing what we're doing. So thanks for that conversation. So at the end of the day, this was actually when I first started 6 years ago. I really looked at the goal was to create healthy tech. Okay, what's the greatest threat? Like the 80-20 rule. What can I tackle that is the number one threat to healthy tech? And it could have been talking about social media or education, or it could have been looking at televisions and wireless internet routers. There's a whole bunch of different ways we could go, but that synthesis, and it became very apparent that the number one gateway was actually our devices. And they were broken at the philosophical level, not at the technology or the hardware level. So the tech itself wasn't all that bad. And then the hardware was just wonderful. It's great. It was actually the design philosophies one step behind it that had perverse incentives behind them and different reasons that were antithetical to human health. And so that's what I wanted to hit. And I had every intention to spread into laptops and other stuff. And 6 years later, I'm still on the phone because there's so much low hanging fruit and we're changing lives profoundly just on that one platform. So
I completely agree. I mean, when I was looking for a phone option for my children who were teenagers at the time, but we wanted one without socials for various reasons. And all you can get is like the Nokia brick that looks horrendous. And
yeah,
you can buy one, and we got one, and we put some phone stuff on it, and they just went, I am not using that. There is no chance. And I think that is the balance, isn't it? You can give them all the safety phones in the world, but if they look like they're really going to stand out, they're not going to use it.
yep, totally. And that was like early on. One of the primary things we found was that kids don't want kids' phones. In fact, there is a trail of actual kids' phones that you've never heard of, made by big companies, Disney and some other folks, and they popped up and they failed. And before I launched Techless, I called 3 other founders of failed kids' phones, and that was the critical piece behind it, is that the dignity of kids was the secret to making it successful, something they could live with, and why we launched specifically with an iPhone. The form factor, the UX, they're not opening up a flip phone and hiding it from their friends. It was to keep the dignity of kids. And so we worked really hard on that. And even the Sage brand, what we're launching here in the UK, it's very rebellious. Black letter font, we're using aggressive, it's not actually conveying safety to parents. It's conveying rebelliousness to kids, which actually resonates with them some. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Oh, we love a rebellion, don't we?
Oh, yes, we do. We love a rebellion. Um, yeah, because also on that, the programming of this iPhone form now, like particularly in the UK, I'm sure it's the same in the States. Like as early as 2 years old now, like kids are getting, I know my nephew certainly did, fake iPhones, fake iPads, so they can toddle around the nursery, looking like mum and dad on their, and they're like just rubber phones, but all the icons are Apple, everything, and that level of programming that early on runs deep, doesn't it? It's hard to switch.
Yeah, I'm a brand guy, and back at Texas A&M, I studied branding, and one of my favorite case studies was John Deere tractors, the green tractors that are sold. They had a long-term strategy, and they sold little toy green tractors at a discount. They lost money on those green tractors in rural areas because they knew that the kid playing with that tractor in 25 years was going to be a farmer and was going to go and buy a John Deere tractor. So yeah, there's something there.
Are you a John Deere family, Chris?
Right across the street from our Fitchin family business, there's a big John Deere tractor, and I'm building a house out in the countryside. So not yet, but maybe I will be soon. So
yeah,
it's funny because I used to, I lived for about 10 years in a rural Scottish farming community. And in a former life, I used to do machine embroidered bags for kids with their favorite stuff on. So sometimes somebody would come and say, can you do me a garbage truck? Because they're obsessed with garbage trucks. Can you do this? And because it was farming, they would say, can you come and do the tractor? And it was really specific, either John Deere or I can't remember what, Massey Ferguson. So it was like, it has to be John Deere or it has to be Massey Ferguson. I had to be very careful.
You got it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
well, back to your iPad example, the interesting thing is even if you get a kid the fake phone, they don't want that phone. They want the real thing. And that's kind of, there's something interesting about that psychology. And we're like trying to find the line between the two as an actual tool for teens. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's really fascinating to me that you come from a brand background and that you've come into this because I mean we run a consultancy in the UK. A good third at least of the work we do is focused on brand. And the way we describe brand strategy is finding a meaningful way to connect a business or an idea to humans, which is essentially what you're doing. So I've got a question around, how much of your brand background is feeding into this?
yeah, I am actually not a technologist. I've coded a little bit, but it's all garbage. So I'd say primarily that is it. And in fact, I even told my investors, which is a dangerous thing to say bold things to them. I've said at the end of the day, what we're creating isn't technologically profound. There's nothing even patentable. Maybe we have a couple little patents here and there, but it's nothing crazy. It's actually only brand and ethos and philosophy, and that's it. That's all that we have. And when one day when we're pursuing exit or something bigger, it's just our brand. That's the true value of the company, and there's nothing more to it than that. So
Yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
totally agree. So you are a parent in different forms. I'd like to hear about that. What do your kids think about this new phone?
they're young. Nine. I have six kids, and we're in London right now, and we're weird here. Six kids in a buggy, as you call them here, on a double wide buggy in the tube is a sight to see. But my oldest is 9 years old, so pre-phone age, at least what I would strongly recommend to be pre-phone age. They love it. They're excited about what we're doing in the world. This truly is a family mission. Like my wife is on board, the kids are on board. I even have like sage baggies with stickers and stuff that are cool that I'm going to give to them today because this is like we're all on the team together. I mean, they packed up and moved here to London for 6 weeks just to help with the launch. So we're on a journey together.
That was one of my questions, actually. I said to Matt, as we were setting up, I said, we need to find out if they have physically moved to London or virtually moved to London and they're launching in London because it wasn't very clear. I wasn't sure. So are you moving to London permanently or is it a launch period or what's happening?
Yeah, no, I'm here because I am a face to face kind of guy. I love interacting with people and building relationships. And I've just learned relationships that transcend years oftentimes take face to face interaction. And so we launched at the Tate Modern a few weeks ago, and I'm here for a few more weeks. But just to have conversations like this, to meet with partners, I mean, Vodafone conversations we've had have been good, and they're just a little harder to get a hold of across the pond. So just temporarily, but I'll probably come back as needed. So
Amazing. How did you go about the launch?
it was wonderful. We got the top conference room at the Tate Modern, and you could look out and just see over the Thames River and St. Paul's Cathedral and everything. And it was very authentic, very emotional. We had a bunch of press showed up, BBC, The Guardian, and some of them said it was the most authentic launch event that they've ever been part of, which really meant a lot to me. We had that weekend after we launched 44 press articles written in the UK about us and 100 since then, articles about the articles. So it's the best product launch I've ever been part of in my life. And the reason we came to the UK specifically was because the cultural tailwinds, the dialogue, the conversations you guys are having, the Online Safety Act, it's all just headed this direction. And we just said, hey, let's come and serve you guys in whatever way works. So
Yeah, I mean, you've done quite a lot of brand launches in the Tate Modern, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place for it. Yeah.
great minds think alike. I just liked it because it was art related, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good. And it does have a real entrepreneurial feel about the place. It really sort of has that electric feeling. So, what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far, other than trying to define what healthy tech is?
that's been a fun challenge. Like, right, I'm a philosopher. That's just been a joyful journey, and conversations like this refine it. So that's been easy or fun. The hardest thing for me, honestly, is just point blank. It's just fundraising. We are playing in a world of elephants. Like, to launch WisePhone 1, I got an estimate from guys that designed the Samsung Fold phone, and it was a $16 million launch, 12 million pounds or something like that. I said, that's just crazy. And so I just don't love asking people for money. I don't like going and walking around and hobnobbing and all the type of stuff. It just feels very insincere to me, and I just care about the mission. And so for me, just the follow-up, the rigmarole, all the discipline associated with fundraising, which is the proper role of a CEO, has been something that I just have not loved and I haven't done super well at, but we've done great. So just been a little slower, a little scrappier.
Given it's not your favorite thing, what has been your strategy for that?
So I forgot which entrepreneur it is. You either go and raise funds and raise capital, or you raise revenue to pay the bills. So we've just doubled down on making a good product that people like. And, we've done constant improvements here and just been very, very focused on this. And what that means is we do more humble marketing and launches. Like, for example, you said you've launched in the Tate. When we went there, we got tables and chairs, no screens, no audio visual, nothing, because you know how expensive it is to put all that stuff up. And just, it's just a very humble, simple event. And it was about face-to-face relationship. And we do a lot of organic stuff. And, I'm not buying two bads, at least not right now. So it's just trying to keep our head on our shoulders and wear too many hats. I'm trying to go from 7 to 5.
Do the kids sing? Because it sounds like you've got a good Von Trapp kind of family going on there.
I wish they could. We almost signed them up for a singing course at the Cafe in the Crypt on Leicester Square. And so they need some work, but maybe one day we'll start a family band. So
yeah, awesome. Love it.
Yeah, get the family band on TikTok, but there's no socials allowed. They're not allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
You'll be great. You'll raise loads of money.
Yeah, I'm really torn about putting my own family on social. I'm like on the fence. I don't personally even like to do it. I would rather have someone else be a brand representative, but I'm well spoken around this, so I do it out of necessity. But I've crossed the ideas I have with my kids off the list. So.
I am joking with you because I do think, it is one of those things, isn't it? When you're working in a world of keeping kids safe in the tech world, there is a values issue of them putting them out in the tech world.
I've thought about it. I mean, I've always said, hey, if you give your kid an iPhone, it's like giving them $1 million. It's like, not that you shouldn't do it. It's that you prepare them for that so it doesn't destroy them when they receive that. It's a lot of power that you're giving them. And so I thought about a video with my oldest daughter, like, here's $1 million, and just see what she does. Like, I mean, it would be fascinating just to watch her eyes get big, or I don't know what she would do, but I'm like, I just can't quite do it. So,
yeah,
it's not a bad idea. I can't go there. So,
and again, it is about that balance between no tech and too much tech. Because you're right, if we don't teach our kids how to be respectful of it and use it, it is part of most people's everyday life, their job, their school, like it's part of everything. And if you don't train them to use it properly, then that's when it becomes really tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So WisePhone 1, give us a rundown of it, what it does, what it doesn't do, what the mission is, and what's the benefit? Why would I get a WisePhone 1 rather than an iPhone?
And
yeah,
is it
sure. So
stage in the UK?
Yes. So we actually have two different brands here. WisePhone, we're actually on WisePhone 2 now. WisePhone 1 was a minimalist device. WisePhone 2 is a healthy device. And the difference between those two is on WisePhone 1, it was just our own 8 apps. That was it. Calling, texting, maps, clock, calculator, camera, nothing else. We built everything, no trust, like very hard to use, honestly. WisePhone 2 allows third-party tools. So it's the same OS, all the controls, but we've allowed the TFL Go app and your banking app and other things like that are practical tools. We've approved 1,000 apps at this point that are all very, down to earth, no social media, no games, nothing explicit. But that's WisePhone 2. We've sold thousands of them. and it's on a Samsung device, so standard hardware. And currently, we're only selling that in the States. So that product's good. We've learned a lot from that. We've constantly iterated. It's technically like our 6th-generation tech stack. But out of all those learnings, and actually 80% of our users are adults on that device. It's a very sophisticated device. Out of all those learnings, we launched the Kids brand in the UK. It's only in the UK, called Sage. It's an iPhone. It's the exact same product philosophy, different UX. It's using native Apple tools, but we have controls at the device level and controls within apps and controls at the carrier level to ensure that that device won't, mess them up in any way. So it's safe out of the box.
So how is that different to the parental controls that are currently on an iPhone?
Yeah. So there are options to lock down an iPhone. It's complicated and there's workarounds. Like it's like a 22-step process currently. And it changes. Like there's software updates and stuff changes. And the truth is it's so complicated that no parents do it. We did 100 surveys prior to coming here, and legitimately 2 or maybe 3 parents out of 100 had any type of restrictions or parental controls for their kids. It's daunting, and there's workarounds. That's the best way to describe it. You can factory reset a phone. There's ways to work around it. And so at the end of the day, we are that like final level of protection. We're selling trust, and it's unbeatable. And you really can't do a few of the controls we have, even within parental controls and restrictions. So
I did have restrictions on my daughter's phone. There was time restrictions and app restrictions and things like that. But I am absolutely convinced she worked around it. Like I have no idea. We couldn't work it out, could we?
No, there were several times where we just lost control. And it was like, yes, because she definitely has, worked it out,
But we didn't know how or what or why, or like we weren't sure.
Yeah.
But the phone was programmed to switch off at 9 p.m. and switch on at like going to school time for the bus journey and stuff.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the day. But I know she was using it. I know she was, but I have no idea like, how.
Yeah. And that's the heart of it, honestly. Like, trust me, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, when we first launched WisePhone, the last thing I wanted to do was to build an OS for a phone. That is crazy. Like, I wanted to build an app, but I know the best internet filter accountability app in the world. I'm good friends with the guys that made it. And we've talked about merging and acquisitions and stuff. And like, you cannot protect a phone at the app level. It's just impossible. And so we had to go all the way back, not just to the manufacturer, but to like a chip that gets written one time and can never be rewritten. That's where our code lives on the WisePhone, because that's how deep the vulnerabilities go. And I wanted to do this with Apple 5 years ago. Finally, they've released the keys to the kingdom and let us do this. So it's been a long time coming to where we could actually promise what we want to deliver on. And we're finally there. So
I really like as well the way you keep coming back to the length of time it's taken, because we are in a world at the moment where every time you go on LinkedIn or TikTok everybody's made this multi-million-pound idea within the last 6 months, but it's not reality of running an actual proper business. That's not how it works. It's not quick. And so many people want everything now and everything quick, and it's just going to drop on their on their lap. And it's just not how it works. So it's great to hear you consistently saying that we've been working on this for years.
Yeah, just to give, because I know you got entrepreneurs listening, it's been a grind too. It's been 6 years of so many hats, and like people they see Jeff Bezos and they're like, oh, he's worth billions or whatever. They don't see, and I don't know about his story in particular, but they don't see the last 6 years I lived, which is just like 80-hour weeks. I mean, legitimately, I had 50 hours of meetings on my calendar on a weekly basis sometimes, and like waking up at 2 a.m. to meet with international developers. And it's just blood, sweat, and tears. Talk about funding. I had a rental property. I sold my rental property and I didn't take a paycheck for like 9 months. Like, that's the stuff you don't see behind the scenes to make some of this stuff come to life. So
the other thing I really want to highlight there, for everybody listening is, and I want you to talk about it a bit, is how would you have done that, like had the soul to do that, if you didn't have a mission and a vision and a purpose in mind?
I wouldn't have. I would have just, when I started Techless, I could have retired. Like I was blessed in that place in life where I could have just gone to an island and lived out my days. And the only reason I'm doing this is legitimately because I felt a strong personal conviction, and my wife too. I couldn't do this without her. Honestly, and this isn't a statement about what you should do with your family, but my wife stays at home with the kids and works extremely hard. She's so smart. She was the valedictorian of her college class, and she's homeschooling our kids, highly capable, and she is helping out with what we're doing. And like, I can spend a little less time managing the family because I trust what she's doing. And, so it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make this happen. Even the kids, I mean, the sacrifices they're making, and the stuff that they would like to do. So it's a journey.
We've had very similar conversation. It's somebody actually I think it'd be really good to put you in touch with, Neil Smith, who developed an app called Metal, and it's a METTL, I think.
Yeah.
It's a men's mental health app. He's also been on our podcast, so I'll send that to you. But he said the same. He gave up a really lucrative career for this mission. His wife is fully supporting him. The kids are supporting him, and it's a grind. Like, people who go into business thinking they're going to do 4-hour weeks and trot around the globe and have loads of fun, like, we're constantly saying to our clients, this isn't really reality. Like, it might be reality eventually, but that's not how it starts.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when we have a sort of initial discovery calls with potential clients and things, a common one we hear all the time is like, what's your future vision? Oh, working on my laptop from my hammock on the beach. It's like, yeah, okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
there's a bit that works before that, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that straightforward.
Yeah, you earn the right to do that. I would even say, to take it one step further, like, there's things I want to do that are just like aspiration, not for myself personally, but just like, there's things I want to do in technology to serve our clients that are visionary and aspirational and fun. Like, I want AI that increases human relationship instead of detracts from it. And I don't even have the right to do those things, which are work, because I still have to pay attention to the fundamentals of business and, just the basics before I can even dream about how I serve my clients, much less be on the beach.
Yeah, we've been really gifted with some amazing people on this podcast, because you've just reminded me of another episode we did with Sam Schlimper, who is an expert in the UK in the way that people interact with AI in the workplace. And they're doing quite a lot of deep study on that. And her take is that AI should be used to free up humans to do what they want to do rather than what they have to do. And I think that's a really great message that really echoes what you're saying as well.
Yeah, and there's I'll throw in one tension to that, is that so much of our tech feeds our own selfishness and our own ego and what we want to do. If that becomes the focus, then it can be distracting. There are some things that we have to do that AI can't do or shouldn't do. Parenting, teaching, like school, like you start replacing some of these really meaningful things that are hard work, and it starts degrading. So yes, and a little bit of
Yeah.
there's some
the AI
broccoli
output.
we got to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to check the AI output still. Right? Like, we have people that come and they say, oh, well, I put this through AI and it was a load of rubbish. Yes, because we still have to check it.
Yes.
That might be the thing you don't want to do, but you really have to do that.
Yeah. So what strategies then do you recommend to people, and particularly parents, who are looking for healthier relationships with their devices and with connection?
Yeah. So for parents or people just in general, here's what I would say. The defaults right now are evil. Like, they're not actually for you. Their purpose of whatever the default on your tech is actually for advertisers or for investors, one of the two. And so if I was to say, hey, where do you start? It's have courage to do something different, be a little bit weird, because that's actually better for you or healthy for you. So like, I'm just giving you permission in a sense to take a step into the, oh, I'm not doing whatever else is doing mode, especially if you have a conviction or a notion of something, lean into that and just do it, because I promise it's a step, one or two steps out of 100 that you could do to do something drastic or crazy. But I think everyone has that intuition of maybe I shouldn't do this. And I'd say just don't do that thing. And if people call you out for it, whatever, who cares? So
Yeah, it's good. I like that.
Yeah, and stepping out and being different. I mean, it's what our business is about, but also it's really hard.
yeah,
Like that's the hardest thing. I think peer pressure is like the biggest thing. I know again with my daughter, she quite often says, oh, I'd rather just not have a phone, but like she finds the phone really stressful, but FOMO is terrible. She's like, I'm going to
yeah,
miss out on conversations, then I don't know what they're talking about. And if we go anywhere, they've had these conversations online, and then I don't know what they're saying. And I think that's the biggest reset we need to make across
yeah,
society
yeah,
is the
totally. And
understanding
I'll
that.
yeah, I'm leaning into that and 100%. And I'll just say, actually, kids know even more than parents how bad this is for us. I talk to kids all the time, and they like I did a hand survey. I was speaking to 750 high school students, and I said, hey, if you could live in a world with no social media, never has been, never will be, how many of you would prefer that world instead of this world? And like 94% of them, we did a quick count, raised their hands. It was almost all of them, because they know. But the FOMO is the thing hanging them back. And the way that you break through the FOMO is a few people have to do it. Maybe it's you and a couple other friends. And so now there's a group of 4 people that aren't so weird. But like that, you got to tip the scale and break the ice on it. But then you'd be amazed how different the world changes once you're there. So that's why I'm kind of pushing for that bit of courage. 1 out of 10 people listening might have that. But then next thing you know, that the whole culture shifts because people don't actually want this.
Yeah.
And I think we've said so many times is imagine if our teenage and young adult years had been on social media, it would have been horrendous. Like
Oh,
it's horrible. Can you imagine
all
if
your
all these
embarrassing moments
things? Yeah,
documented.
it's
Yeah.
terrible.
But not only the documenting, I think one of the things that sort of saved me as a teenager was that, we weren't instantly contactable, that you could go home from school and completely switch off from everything if that's what you chose to do, unless you went out or picked up a corded phone, you weren't contactable and you could just escape for a few hours or a night, before you had to do it again.
One of the things I've found really interesting with the younger people as well is because a lot of them just track each other's locations all the time. Where are they? And all the friends know where all the friends are. So they'll message saying, oh, no, I'm not available tonight because I'm staying at home and washing my hair. Like you could do that when you had your cordless phone at home and you hung it up and on the wall and your parents. But now they're going, well, they're not washing their hair because they're at so and so's house. And it's just like the psychology behind that it's horrible because that person's then sat at home going, but I know they're not doing the thing that they said they were doing that they couldn't come and meet me for because I can see on their phone that they're at the park or here or that. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
So you touched a little bit on giant elephants in the industry, and there are some massive ones, and we've talked a little bit about the fact that everything's built around advertising. That's how a lot of their platforms and apps are monetized. It's how they generate revenue. What sort of resistance have you come up against so far? Have you been blocked in any direction at all, or have you had negative things come your way?
A few things. Don't search my name on Reddit. No. No, I think the biggest one we had, the most mysterious one, I'll say, was early on, kind of Gen 2 or 3 tech stack we built. We actually were depending on the Google Play Store. And we got our messaging app because we had 8 apps and they were all connected to one another. So you needed all of them to work. Well, our messaging app got taken down for vague reasons. There was no explanation, no description, nothing. And we hired experts that are like, I do Google Play Store audits and reviews and all this stuff. And that we get your app back on. And they couldn't break through the ice. And we finally figured out mysteriously that it was just philosophical reasons. Like they did not believe in some of the things philosophically that we believed in. So it was like around children and parental rights and being able to see what kids are doing. in the messaging tool. They didn't like that. And so we had to legitimately make our own app distribution platform, completely rewrite and I mean, we just did everything. We made our own Play Store alternative because of technical hurdles, because the gatekeepers of the tech weren't on board with what we were trying to do philosophically. So there's been moments like that time and time again, but we've just picked up our boots and just worked around it, designed around it, and made it happen. And we keep iterating. So
they were clearly people without children.
I'll tell you, the whole thing was very mysterious. It was very mysterious. There was no human interaction, and there's always reasons or thoughts or code or highlighted stuff in this whole. It was just a blank page. So everything I said is speculative. I don't know if that's exactly what transpired, but it was all very weird. And people that do this all the time said this is very weird, and this is my suspicion of what transpired. So we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I want to go a bit more into the kids, and if you're okay about talking about it, it's okay if you're not. But
sure.
You've got your own, like, they're all your own children, but you've got biological children and you've got foster children. So what brought you into the fostering process?
Sure. So currently at this moment, we just have 6 bio kids, and that's enough for us. So no foster kids, but we've had 7 come and go in our house for different seasons. And actually, back to film, one of the projects I did was for Chick-fil-A. They have a house. It's similar to Ronald McDonald House. It's kind of their way they give back to the world. And we got to go and interview 16 different sets of parents, and they give a parent a house and 12 kids. And the house is like designed for 12 kids. Here's 2 dishwashers, 2 vans, 4 washers and dryers, and go love on these kids. And I just interviewed them and saw, 60 years of lives being changed by just 2 people step up and say, I'm going to love these kids, no matter how messy they are, no matter how rough they are. I'm just going to love these kids and be parents to them. And it's fascinating. Some of the parents were overweight and their kids were overweight, and some of them were a little more eccentric and weird, and their kids were eccentric and weird, and they weren't their bio kids. And I was like, this is really cool. I saw so much power in the midst of that project in witnessing firsthand how all of these kids' lives trajectories was completely set on a new plane. And my wife was involved in that project, that we just felt conviction to step into this journey ourselves. And so we did. We said, let's do it. And we took a bunch of kids into our home, and each one has their own story and heartbreak and joys and adventures, you name it. So
yeah, I mean, we've got our family's got a whole host of adopted children and foster children,
okay.
and but from 30, 40 years ago. So it was in my world 30, 40 years ago, my whole life really. So yeah, I was just interested to find out what brought you into that. And it's a different way of parenting, because you are getting kids that come ready-made with their own traumas and abandonments and all the rest of it. But I can imagine it's also really fulfilling.
It was wonderful. Our experience, you hear horror stories. We had our fair share of challenges, but honestly, all in all, it was extremely fulfilling. And it feels a bit entrepreneurial, right? Like you're just like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're a bit naive. It is messy, and so be it. You just take each day as it is and depend on others for help, and just dive in and love them. And you're going to do better than whatever else they would have had happen in their lives. So it was great.
And was that before you had biological children, or was it all mixed in?
We had a few kids early on, and then once we started hitting like 4, it got kind of crazy. So we slowed down. At one point we had a sibling set of 3 and 2 of our own, and my wife was really pregnant, and we said, that's enough. So
my grandma had 7 biological children and then took in another 3.
Yeah, that's wild.
She had nothing better to do, of course.
That takes courage. I love it.
Yeah.
So that really sort of demonstrates again, like how much you and your wife are both clearly action takers. Like when something comes up, you're not sitting back and going, "Oh, that's great what they're doing over there." You take action every step, from what we can see from the stories. Do you know where that comes from? Has that always been there, or is that something you've had to sort of learn and develop?
I've had to slow myself down because my financial advisor called me a kamikaze. That's not a good thing. Um, no, I think there's some like family entrepreneurship in it that's just kind of in the blood, and just dreaming and being a visionary. And then I don't know, there was a book I read called War Fighting, and it's the U.S. Marines Doctrine of War. So it's actually for soldiers in the battlefield and how to command and lead them. But it was like the best business book I've ever read because it was about leadership. And one of the key principles of it was the idea of taking initiative and empowering people to take initiative, and then just cleaning up whatever happens afterwards. Because if you do that, you're constantly leaning in a positive, proactive way into the change that you want to see on the battleground or in the world. And the enemy, which in this case could be just toxic technology, has to react to you instead of you reacting to it. And so I think there's just I've just seen the wisdom in initiative. And yes, it makes messes, but even in our team, I'm like, always just ask for forgiveness. I don't care. I would rather you get 10 things done and 3 of them were totally bogus than wait for permission and knock out 2 things. Like, we just do stuff and then play a little cleanup afterwards. And it's served us well.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's a really great analogy, actually. Something we'll definitely talk about in our group, because I think people just get so worried about failing or getting things wrong or doing the wrong thing and making the wrong decisions. And they completely forget that you can change decisions. And yes, there might be an impact. Yes, there might be some financial stuff that happens, but it doesn't mean to say you still can't do it.
Yeah. And I'm not proposing this next statement. There's an interview that got deleted by a Google founder, but he said something along the lines like, successful Silicon Valley companies actually go launch, break all the rules, do things that are illegal and unethical. And then after they make a bunch of money, they hire lawyers to go clean it all up 2 or 3 years later by the time people are starting to complain about it. That's the extreme version. That we have lines. I don't cross those lines, but there's a truth of nugget of wisdom in that to succeed takes just going and doing stuff and failing and messing up. And then just, I mean, if you could just making it happen and then hone it as time goes on. So,
yeah. So try and stay within your ethical boundaries and your values and belief systems, guys.
100%. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. We're on the same page there.
We're not saying you should go off and do anything illegal, but just be a bit more maverick sometimes, a bit more rebellious, and less worried about whether something's right or not. Because sometimes you don't know if it's right until you've done it, do you?
Until you're good at go. No, and that leads really nicely onto another question, which is, what are the values that are driving you and your mission?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, because I had this blank page moment. Like I said, I could have retired. I could have done something else. I could have done another job to make more money in a more predictable, reliable way that, like, if the worst thing happened, I'd lose 80% of my investment. And this whole venture was like, you either make money or you lose it all. It's like just crazy. You know, it's the bad slot machine at the casino. And for me, honestly, I just had a personal conviction rooted in my faith to change the world as much as it could depend on me. And particularly the pornography epidemic was the thing that was behind a lot of this. I just said, hey, if I could somehow move the needle in influencing children and give them 3-4 more years of their life without exposure to explicit content, I'm going to do that. And that's not the stated public purpose of Sage and what we're doing. But that's one of the bigger things that's driving it for me, is just helping make a better world in that sense, and helping people live out better relationships with one another, with their parents, and with God, if they are people of faith. That's kind of the 2 backbone sentiments that are the true heart nugget behind the scenes. I don't talk about it that often, but that's the backbone for it all.
Yeah, that's great. You said earlier that like 9 was too young for a phone of any description, which I agree with. But what in your opinion, and it is just an opinion, is the right sort of age?
All right, I'll offend everyone. Yeah, I'll offend everyone with this question because I know what the statistics are. I'm probably not going to give my kid an actual phone that is theirs until they're driving, like 15 and a half, 15. Here's your device. And by the way, you're paying for it, but I have control over it. I don't know. I'm pretty extreme in relative to the statistics. I do think there is definitely a case for like a family phone or a kid's phone that does not belong to an individual, or it's yours. And like, hey, you're going to drop a kid off somewhere. Okay, here, take this device and you can run with it. We share it type of thing. But until then, there's not a drastic need for it, particularly in my world. But yeah, there's all transport. There's real reasons, particularly kids with medical issues, to go younger than that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issue comes with parents who are separated because there's the parent that's not there on
Mm-hmm.
site who wants the kid to have automatic access to them that's not via the other parent. And I think that happens quite a lot as well, where that's the point where the kid gets the phone and there isn't another option other than
Yeah.
until now, really, other than a Nokia brick to have that non-smartphone option. So I
Yeah.
think it's when my daughter first got her phone, I think she was 11, way before I would have chosen, and I would have just handed her down an old phone that had basic stuff on it. But she went away one weekend and came back with a new iPhone. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, I've got to
Yep.
manage this monster.
Yep. No, it's very complicated. And that's, yeah, I hear you. And just to further offend people, the one thing I would say, there's practical reasons. Like that's another good of practical reason. There's a whole host. We could sit here for a while and list them out. The one reason that I will offend you and throw out a red flag is if you're just doing it to entertain your kids. That's the worst reason to give them a device. That's
Oh,
the
terrible.
only one that I can't endorse. It's like I just want them to be quiet. Like, sorry, I love you, and that's a stupid reason to give a kid a phone. uh,
Yeah, I agree. So would you say that you've raised your age limit and got more extreme with your views on it, given all the research you've done through this process, or has that not really changed? The research has just reinforced it.
I'd say it's been almost exactly the same. And if anything, as I've built healthy tech, I've actually chilled out a little bit as time has gone on. And I'm aware of the research, I'm fully aware, but I've become less fearful because I can, like, we pretty much don't let our kids even mess with their own phones. If we do, it's like, oh, they can look at it while it's there on the table and they can't touch it. Like there's just this like, but truth is, if my 12-year-old daughter puts my phone in her pocket or has her own phone and walks around for 3 days, it's not that big of a deal. I've chilled out because I built the stuff and I trust it. So, um,
Yeah, there's different options now. And I know there will be a lot of parents in the UK for sure that will listen to this and sigh a huge sigh of relief because I looked for it myself and I couldn't find
yeah,
anything. So the fact that I've done it, there'll be loads and loads of parents that will just look at this. I mean, I look on Facebook and parents are always asking, how do I put controls on? How do I do this? How do I stop them going on this app? How do I stop them going on this app? All the
yeah,
time. Every week there's those questions coming in. So I think
yep.
you're providing something that parents have been dying for a long time, and there just wasn't the options out there. So I'm really excited for you. I think it's a great venture.
Thank you. Yep, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I know you've only just launched, but what sort of feedback are you getting already from customers and end users?
So the good news is from a brand new brand that we made in a month and a half, which is very rapid from a brand creation standpoint, everyone
Really?
gets it. Yeah, they understand the product. The reception has been overwhelmingly good. The press is great. The one dark spot right now is our pricing was off. And so we have been working really hard on that. We hired a pricing market research firm that I've used in the past, and they were amazing and great and just hit the nail on the head. We even chose like, hey, more mass adoption or higher profits. We chose the mass adoption path between the two, and it was still just off. So we are like right in the middle of finalizing a complete overhaul to our pricing. We went back to Vodafone and Apple and like just reinvented the very business model over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so that's been the one thing we're still figuring out. And like, I think we went from a launch to a soft launch because of that pricing issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's one of those trial things, isn't it? You try
yeah.
something and sometimes you've got to adjust. So what was the price point that wasn't working?
So per our recommendation, it was 99 pounds a month, but it included a leased brand new iPhone, a full unlimited texting, data, calling plan, and then also our software subscription. So it's kind of all three. And if you combine them all, it's like still a little. Funny thing is, we're paying more for these items than you could pay if you walked into a Vodafone store. So that was part of the reason why we haven't hit economies of scale yet for this product. But yeah, it was too high. And so we've reworked it and found out like, hey, people are used to paying for a 2-year contract. Okay, well, I didn't like the idea of contracts, but that's a massive discount. Hey, we could do a 1 gig data plan for kids. Okay, great, another discount. Hey, we could do a refurbished iPhone 14, further discount. So we've started lowering the prices, and I think we have plans that start at £29 now, which is a whole lot more approachable.
Wow, amazing.
And I just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah,
there are articles talking about the heating crisis and people cost of living, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the exact opposite of where I wanted this to go. So.
I'd agree, because I think so many adults wouldn't spend that a month on phone. But was that a non-tied in contract length, or was that like a year's contract length?
Yes. It was, and when I met with the Guardian, that was the first question he asked me. I was like, oh gosh, what did we get ourselves into? So that was actually the number one culprit, was the non-contract thing. I philosophically don't love the idea of contracts with big companies, but that was one of those like, okay, we have a choice of dropping the price by £20 a month if we can ensure that we're going to have a business for 2 years, and everyone prefers that. So we still have the non-contract option, and my theory is less than 2% of people are going to choose that because it costs more. So
yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? And tricky, because there's no real precedent to what you're doing. So there's no like data on the price points that you can really sort of latch onto, really. So yeah, amazing.
Well, and the one thing we do have going for us, so WisePhone is a subscription for an OS, and we actually worked all the way back. We started out selling the phone and carrier services and all stuff, and now we just sell just the OS by itself. Like that's it. So, and it's $15 a month or $16 a month. And then if you look at platforms, YouTube, Netflix, all of these have tiers depending on whether it's free or premium, ad supported or not. And they're all kind of in that range. So there actually is a precedent on what a premium ad-free experience is for a platform. And we're kind of using that. That's our profit margin right there. We're breaking even on the phone plan. We're breaking even on the device. And then we're providing the software, and we're taking about the same amount as that. And that covers overhead. We're going to lose money for the first year, just guaranteed. So, but that's where we make up our margin.
Yeah, amazing.
Again, I want the small business owners out there and the entrepreneurs who are thinking about stuff to really key into that. You're going to lose money in the first year, because that's generally what happens in business. So when you're online and you see all these people that made $1 million in the first 6 months of operating in business, it's generally a load of rubbish, or they're just this weird unicorn.
Yeah. Generally, they haven't shown you the 5 years that led up to that thing.
We've burned cash for 5 years, and
Yeah.
the last 6 months have been our first profitable months ever. And I finally gave the team, everyone's getting paid below market rate, and they do have equity, which helps. But I finally gave them like, hey, you deserve this. Let's bump up our pay to like more close to reasonable. So yeah, that's the world we've all lived in.
How big is the team?
Right now, we're about 15. We've been at 35 when we were like in the peak of software building mode, and now it's a lot more sustainable. We did all the heavy lifting, and so now it's just continuously iterating.
Yeah, brilliant. What haven't we asked you that you'd really like to communicate to our audience?
You guys are super intentional and have asked great questions. So I don't have any real agenda here. Y'all really hit the nail on the head on it, I think, in giving hopefully a hope-filled message of the reality of doing something like what we've done. Hopefully we've given y'all a peek under the hood.
We will put all the links to where they can find you and all about the phone in the show notes anyway. So everybody who wants to can contact you, go and look at the phones. I think it's a great idea. I'm really excited about it. What do you think your next sort of 5-10 year plan is?
5-10 years. Keep doing this. I'm passionate about it. I think as time goes on, I want to move. Like we started out with something minimal. Now we're talking about healthy. Then we're talking about a kids brand, and we're going international. with both of them. Hopefully Sage comes to the US and WisePhone comes to Europe is the goal in the UK. But my hope really is to do as much as I can to shift more and more into defining and creating healthy technology. And so we've got a documentary, a book, like if we could have a moment, a cultural moment where 10 years from now, people look back and say, wow, healthy technology is one that brings us closer to relationship with another instead of taking us further apart. Healthy technology is something that does this for us and it makes us less selfish instead of more selfish. And like that becomes more common language, then that's a major win. So it's as far as it depends on me, I'm going to try to keep going on the education piece, but then also making products that complement it. And so there's a handful of projects in that vein that we have that are going that route.
That's amazing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, we're right behind you.
Yeah, we are right behind you. And there's definitely 3 or 4 people right now in the UK that I want to hook you up with just to get some conversations flowing between you, because I think there's some good relationships to be had there. But I'm going to ask you probably the 3 most difficult questions of the podcast now, and they are my personal favorites. Would you please give me 1 book, 1 piece of music, and 1 tool or framework that's really energized and elevated your progression that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure, totally. I love this question. Book. I already mentioned war fighting, so I guess I can pick another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm thinking particularly for your audience. One of my favorite books I've read is called Positioning. You're talking about brand and such. It's by Jack Trout and Al Rice, I think. And it's all about brand and product positioning. And it is so fundamental and so profound. And if you can understand this book, it's simple, but it will legitimately change your company. And so that's the one thing that I feel like I've done well in is positioning. So that's the book. Music, I'm not going to answer it with a specific song. I'm going to answer it with an app, which is ironic, but I just downloaded the Suno app and you can prompt music and make your own songs. And so I legitimately wrote the lyrics to a song. We called it See It, Say It, Sort It for you Londoners. and then prompt the style. And I put 68 keywords in it to give it the exact style I wanted. And it kicked out an AI song. And it is now a legend in our family. We play it every single morning when we wake up and the kids are talking about, it has a bunch of British words in it that are quirky for us, cheeky for us.
I love that. So how do you spell that, Chris?
Suno. And they have a free version and they have a paid version, and the paid version is world class and it's $9 a month. Anyways, so if you want to make a legend for your own family or for yourself, make a Suno app and so you can dream.
Best music answer yet.
Yeah, and it is the best music answer that. So I've got a sub question on that one. Is that one of your 1,000 approved apps?
We have not run it through the process yet. I have a very robust process of a bunch of checks, human checks, code audits, all the stuff. And we have a giant backlog. I think we have 5,000 apps that we're supposed to review that we haven't done yet. So we're not there yet.
Well, actually, that was a really good answer to a question we didn't ask, is like, how do you check the apps? So you do really robustly check that they're all up to standard.
Yeah, we've only approved 15% or so of requested apps. So these are apps that people ask us to put on, and then we go through a process. And that's another one of the tools I'm working on is making that a public process so that people can see transparently what's healthy and what's not. Because the App Store ratings are created by the developers themselves and are totally bogus. So there's no guidance at all on what's good for us. So I'm hoping to be that authority. So
yeah, brilliant.
Amazing. And a tool or framework?
Tool or framework. Okay. I don't know if have y'all ever heard of EOS or the Entrepreneurial Operating System? Is that a new one for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So part of the Fitchin family business we talked about, I was part of internal marketing. We're 125 years old. I was part of internal marketing for bringing in lean, which is a manufacturing methodology rooted in Japanese tradition and such. But it's very, very structured and rigid and complicated. And yet we had to hire 7 people just to run lean. It was a very process intensive, but it completely transformed the company. Well, EOS is a very lightweight version of that I would highly recommend. We hired an implementer to come and help launch it within ourselves, but it's rooted in like four of the best business books, Patrick Lencioni, some other wonderful business leaders, and they've distilled it down. And it's not just read a book and then don't do anything with it, which is what I do, probably what everyone listening does. It's an actual system, high level, to run the company. Weekly meetings. Here's a very clear structure on how to run the weekly meetings. Quarterly check-ins. We run on a quarterly basis very heavily. Here's the goals for the quarterly. Providing accountability. Internal check-ins, making sure your mission, vision, and values are all aligned. So it's like the very lightweight, manageable. Lean is not manageable. It's the lightweight, lean, small system that you can wrap your mind around in plain English to be the backbone for ops, accountability, hiring, everything like that. So EOS is what it is, the name.
That's brilliant. I'm looking that up as soon as we stop recording. That sounds awesome.
So this season, we are sneaking in another question because somebody brought it up in one of the podcasts. What do you have a favorite kind of motivational saying or quote that kind of keeps you going?
I have a lot. There's a lot of different directions I could go with this. Do you want the candid, genuine, inspiring one, or the one that popped in my feed this week? Actually, here, I'll go with the one that popped in my feed this week.
Give me both.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the candid one. The candid one first. One of my mentors at Texas A&M, my marketing mentor, I asked him the same question actually, and he quoted scripture to me. So he quoted Proverbs 3:5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lead not on your own understandings." And I think if you were to take something, even from a non-religious perspective, just the idea of having humility to think beyond your own experience, that's what's been valuable to me. Is like, hey, one of the reasons why our tech is so broken and is because people just like, oh, this is what I think it should be. And they don't look back at history or science or like go back hundreds of years or thousands of years or transcendent truths that apply to culture if you take a step out of the 50-year window that the technologists are designing for. So like, I'm trying to have the humility to think, or actually not think, about principles that are bigger than myself. So there's the vulnerable piece. And then the more one that popped up in my feed this week, one of the articles that came out, The Guardian, the reporter gave his 16-year-old daughter a Sage phone and she hated it. And it was like this, like, oh, I hate my dad. I couldn't do this. It was just like, I don't know, 4-letter words. It was just a terrible experience. And then he came out with another article a couple days later saying, I think there's a sign that if you can't live without something, maybe you should. And so there's actually a Denzel Washington quote. And he said exactly that. When it comes to social media and technology, he was saying, hey, if you can't live without this, it's a sign that you definitely need to. And it's not living its proper place in our lives. And so that would be the one that's more current, top of mind for me.
And really true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is... yeah, that is a really good one. That is has stopped me in my tracks a little bit. I'm thinking maybe we don't have to apply that to cheese, but other things, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I love it.
That would be a real problem for you.
It would. But maybe I should.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who would say cheese is a thing. That's awesome. I love it.
Have you ever seen Wallace and Gromit?
That's exactly what popped in my mind. I was like, now Wallace and Gromit makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Your nephew calls you Wallace, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. No, I think you get a hall pass on cheese. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. Matt's nephew will not be convinced that the moon is made out of cheese for love nor money.
No.
Like, he's 7. No, Uncle Matt, you are wrong.
Yeah.
It's made out of rocks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Chris, it's been amazing to have you on. Thank you so much for carving out some time because you are one busy guy. But thank you for sharing so openly and honestly with us about your journey, what you're up to, your mission. It's really inspiring, and we've loved having you on today. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And hopefully some of the conversations that we had inspired some courage or some action or some, at least some questions to ponder for the next season of life. But I appreciate the opportunity. It's been great. You guys asked wonderful questions and it's just been a fun conversation. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, Jenny, your life's just one big drama. This was what my auntie said to me, and it inspired me to put all my dramas in one book. So if your life is full of drama, and I believe everyone's life is full of drama, this is the book with real stories, real struggles, real tools to navigate real life.